This book is not intended for use as a source of legal, business, accounting, or financial advice. All readers are advised to seek services of competent professionals in legal, business, accounting, and finance fields. You are encouraged to print this book for easy reading. Table of Contents. Forward. Chapter 1. The Truth Behind Goal Achievement. Chapter 2. Identifying Goals. Chapter 3. How to clearly define goals. Chapter 4. Align your goals with your beliefs. Chapter 5. How to commit to goals. Chapter 6. Get others on board with your goals. Chapter 7. Make sure to set start and stop times. Chapter 8. Visualize your goals. Chapter 9. Take action. Chapter 10. What can happen if you don't meet goals? Wrapping up. Forward. Let's face it, for most individuals, the way you appear greatly impacts your self-respect. If you don't have a beneficial health and fitness plan in the works, then you might not be looking your finest. If you're heavy and flabby, your self-respect could be low. Individuals with low self-respect commonly don't have a beneficial degree of personal effectiveness and may not have the confident attitude necessary for beneficial personal development. Thinking bigger. Keys to aiming higher and achieving bigger goals in life to realize your full potential. Chapter 1. The Truth Behind Goal Achievement. Goals are great to have but hard to keep. Every person ideally should have several goals in life, and they may not necessarily all be achievable, but having these goals help to keep a person focused and strong-minded toward achieving the said goals. The truth. Goals also help people have a reason for existence. There are a lot of positive reasons why and how goals benefit people. Some of these are: helps build and develop the art of firm decision making. When firm decisions are made, the individual will then feel energized enough to meet the goals made from the decisive decisions. Learning to prioritize. This very useful tool in life helps ensure the individual is capable of choosing what is important over what is trivial and unnecessary. Studying a situation or problem in depth before deciding on the next course of action is also a good skill to develop. While honing this skill, the individual learns how to effectively and quickly solve problem in order to keep the focus on the end goal alive. Understanding and accepting that in order to succeed in achieving in some goal, there needs to be teamwork. Thus, by learning to pick and work as a team, people learn to respect each other and the contributions made. Another truth behind goal achievement is learning to cope with failure. Not many things will be successfully achieved at the first attempt, and learning to persevere is a good attitude to develop. This is vital if one wants to stay competitive in the reality of goal achievements. Learning to develop the attitude of persistence will allow the individual to build a stronger character in the face of adversity. The positive character trait is both beneficial and desirable. All these traits are good truths to live by when trying to achieve life's various goals with the intention of coming out victorious in each one. Chapter 2. Identifying Goals. Most people go through life with only a vague idea or outline of the goals they want to achieve. Very few, however, give it any serious thought or even have a plan on how to achieve the goals. Perhaps they are just no interested in focusing of achieving the goal with a sense of urgency and would rather drift along until one day they awake from this ignorance in a panic. What are they? It is a good idea to have goals from a very young age, as there is no real, perfect age that dictates the comprehension on the idea of having a goal. Parents can inculcate this very desirable trait in their children by being a good example themselves. Setting goals is not an exercise to be taken lightly. Setting goals require a certain amount of serious thought and consideration. The thought process usually involves the long-term ideal future and the motivating factor that is going to eventually ensure its success. It would be wise to identify with some level of precision what the individual wants out on life and work from that level up towards achieving the goal in mind. If the goal is clearly understood and perceived to be possible, only then will the body and mind be able to work together in order to keep the motivation for achieving the goal alive. There are many areas one can consider when trying to embark on the journey of setting and achieving goals. The areas may include family, career, finances, education, and attitude, breaking a bad habit, adopting and keeping a good habit, exercise are just a few common choices. Upon identifying the goals, one must be certain that the goal chosen is achievable. The key is in sticking to the commitment of achieving the goal, as it is crucial to its success. Chapter 3. How to clearly define goals. One of the major reasons people fall off the goal wagon is the very important fact that they don't stick to the goal long enough to see it all the way to success. Get it in order. This is probably because most people make the mistake of not having clearly defined their goals, thus they charge into the goal mindset with full energy and enthusiasm only to see both elements wane as time goes and the desired quick results are not forthcoming. There are several tried and true methods anyone can adapt to suit their individual needs to clearly define their goals. For some, the absolute first step is to have a dream, and it won't hurt if the dream is big, either. However, keeping it realistic in terms of achievement capabilities is also wise. Having the mindset that dreams become goals and goals become realities is a good benchmark to start with. Ideally, to clearly define a goal, the mindset must be able to understand the various components involved in working towards the goal. Very specific outlines need to be drawn, and vagueness gives way to the danger of constantly and indiscriminately lowering expectations. It also encourages the negative attitude of acceptance and laziness. Other aspects that should be clearly defined when setting goals are a measurable scale or chart drawn up to keep the progress on track with the timeline of the commitment made. Ensure the goal is attainable and not something too fantastic or something dreamed up as part of a fantasy. Pick goal that has the advantage to working within the area of expertise of the individual, as this is important to keep the interest alive in the goal chosen. People often lose interest and energy on things they don't understand, thus frustration sets in. Chapter 4. Align your goals with your beliefs. Setting goals that are clear in its expectations is one way of ensuring the percentages of reaching that goal is favorable. Random goal setting rarely produces the desired results, and worse still, it depletes the energy of an individual trying to meet that goal. Line them up. The staying power or motivation involved in seeing the goal achieved lies in the desire to succeed in the achievement set. Believing in oneself and in the goal is very important and definitely a prerequisite. Ideally, the belief must match the desire to see the goal achieved. This belief is what will ensure the commitment and conviction towards the goal. When setting a goal, all these elements are very important, reason being there is usually no real necessity to ensure the completion of the goal set. Therefore, since it is really not a do-or-die situation, most people tend to give up at the first sign of difficulty or trouble. Also, without belief in the oneself and the goal, it is really hard to stay focused and convinced that the venture will be achieved with total success. The amount of time and effort put toward achieving the set goal is also directly connected to the beliefs of the individual. Along with incorporating the belief factor into the equation, other points like why this particular goal was set, who is the end beneficiary to the success of this goal, and is it really worth the effort? If the answers to all these questions are answered beyond the satisfactory mark, only then the percentage of seeing the venture to the end can be expected. Sometimes when the beliefs and the goals don't make a happy mix, a lot of complications start to create situations where it becomes easy to lose sight of the intended goal. Thus, before taking the first step, remember to believe in the goal and oneself. Chapter 5. How to commit to goals. When a goal is first conceptualized, it's almost always done on a dream-like fantasy level. The more time spent thinking about the goal, the more the dream state disappears and something more concrete takes its place. However, once this stage is reached, then keeping the motivation going and actually launching the steps toward achieving the said goal can be tricky. Some tips. Here are some helpful tips as to how to stay committed to a goal. It's hard to shelf a goal when the whole world knows about it. Tell as many people as you can and ask them to help you keep the focus and energy to see the goal achieved. Write down the goal and keep it in sight as much as possible. Visual reminders are a great way to stay motivated and excited to see the goal accomplished. Set a deadline. However, caution should be exercised and a realistic timeline should be set, otherwise this factor alone can end up costing the abandonment of the goal. Enlisting as much help as possible to complete the goal is also another good idea. If the goal is group-orientated, everyone has the responsibility to be equally committed in achieving the goal. Also, it's a great motivator when there are other participants in the goal. Researching the matters related to the goal is indeed an absolute must. Knowing what the goal entails will give the individual a chance to evaluate its success. Investing personal money is a great, if not the greatest, motivator. Focusing and working hard toward achieving the goal will be the primary reason why quitting or not being able to reach the goal unacceptable. Losing money is indeed painful, and thus this would not be an option to consider. Chapter 6. Get others on board with your goals. The world is made up of many different types of people, both in character and in ethnic backgrounds. However, when it comes to setting goals, for many this is not a problem, and most goals are set without any consideration to all the factors involved. Sticking to the goal and seeing it through to the end is where the problem lies. A large percentage of people setting goals don't achieve them for one reason or another. Involve others. One way of ensuring a goal is met is by getting as many people as possible involved in meeting its success. The group effort not only gives the goal a better percentage of success, but it also contributes in many other ways. Jumping into a group effort style project to achieve a specific goal is not as easy as it sounds, though. A lot of factors need to be considered, like compatibility, logistics, time available, and many more. When there are many clashing opinions, the goal is in danger of losing its pull. Find people who will be an asset to the group rather than someone who will be disruptive. Setting boundaries and ensuring the boundary is always adhered to helps in many ways. If everyone in the group contributes positively, then the goal is assured of seeing some success. The people picked to work on the project together must not have any negative ulterior motive. Creating a harmonious environment to work as a group is also a good idea. Having a good plan laid out clearly will also help people to work together well. When everyone knows what their roles are supposed to be in terms of contributing towards the achievement of the goal, then the motivation factor is much clearer and real. Taking the lead may not always be necessary if there is someone more capable in the group, and acknowledging this will also create an admirable quality for all to see. Chapter 7. Make sure to set start and stop times. There are many aspects to consider when setting goals. As it is almost always abandoned before it is completed, creating the right mindset and rules to follow would be a good. This is one way to ensure the percentage of abandonment is decreased. Set deadlines. Initially, at its conceptual stage, there may be some unrealistic expectations placed on the group or individual with regard to achieving the goal. It is not unusual to have to address these minor hiccups and rethink the schedules pertaining to the efficiency of completing the goal. Several factors need to be considered when dealing with timelines. If the goal is to be reached as a group, then the complexities involved are doubled if not tripled. The commitment of each person must be without any doubt, if the group is to function effectively. If the goal accomplishment only involves the commitment of one individual, the commitment level does not necessarily change that much. Ensuring the element of procrastination is never present is very important. After being assured of the level of commitment of each person, drawing up specific time frames is prudent. At every juncture, there should be a check on the progress and performance toward reaching the goal. If any discrepancies are found, it should be addressed immediately, and a further deadline should be set to address this particular problem, without affecting the overall timeline drawn at the beginning. Ideally, there should be a very comfortable stopgap period which leaves everyone fully able to complete the intended task and reaching the goal with time to spare. These allowances are extremely important to counter any unforeseen problems. When timelines are strictly kept, the confidence levels of all those involved also grows and the results are better qualities shown in the quest to reach the goal. Chapter 8. Visualize your goals. In order to keep a goal alive and enticing through time, one must be strong and have the courage to persevere against all odds. Some goals are easier to achieve than others, and some are just not worth the effort after a few false starts. To ensure a goal does not end up in the latter category, here are some tips worth considering and perhaps following. See it. Be completely and convincingly sure of what the goal is. Be sure and clear-minded about the goal, shows the focused energy that has been harnessed in order to conceptualize the goal. Constantly imagine the end results as envisioned and relive it daily in the mind's eye. This further resolves the commitment to strive to reach the goal as the picture is already part of the conscious and subconscious. Talk about the goal constantly and in detail is visualized in the mind's eye. Talking about the goal helps at some level to bring about the feeling of victory as if the goal has already been achieved. The brain is already ready for the body to experience the victory of reaching the goal. Surrounding oneself with like-minded people is also a good way to get the mental and physical support needed to see the goal become a success. The passion from others along with one's own has tremendous positive power and energy. Surrounding oneself with constant reminders of the goal helps to keep the mind focused and also ensuring there are no other distractions to cause the individual to waver in the resolve to reach the goal. Sometimes getting outside help in the form of a professional motivator may be needed. These motivators can assist in keeping the motivation levels at its peak and also organize the individual schedules to ensure the timeline for the goal is not disrupted. Chapter 9. Take action. The goal has been picked. The action plan all mapped out. Now all that is left is to put everything into action. These steps seem so simple, but for some people it can be quite daunting and overwhelming. There are cases where the goal ceases to exist after this stage. Many reasons may contribute to this strange phenomenon. However, there are ways to ensure this does not happen. Get moving. Setting a standard for the performance working towards the goal is the first positive step to take. This will ensure the tracking is done from the very onset of the venture. At every juncture, it would be wise to get feedback on the progress or method being used. This is to help gauge the legitimacy of the method used and to ensure it is in line with the needs required to reach the intended goal. At this point, it would be easy to analyze what motivates the team or individual to keep steadfast towards achieving the goal. Armed with this information, incentives geared along the lines of the information analyzed could further motivate and increase efforts to reach the goal. Having all the strategies to be used clearly understood by all those involved in reaching the goal is important. Having good strategies but no understanding of its workings will not only be useless, it will also hinder the progress. Any extra support, both mental and physical, that is needed to see the success of the goal should be identified and arranged. This support is vital as a backup to whatever area it serves. Having additional support also never hurt and can further motivate the participants in their quest to reach the goal. Keeping to schedules that have been drawn up to the beginning of the venture is important to keep the project on track. A good action plan should include all of the above. Chapter 10. What can happen if you don't meet goals? Everyone has goals, either long-term or short-term. Having a goal is a health thing for the mind, but not doing anything to try and achieve the goal is rather unhealthy indeed. There are many reasons why people fail to achieve their goals. Important info. The first and probably the most damaging is the feeling of frustration when the path to achieving the goal does not seem to show any progress. When the frustration seep in, there is a good probability both the interest levels and the excitement levels will diminish rapidly. Another reason for failure to meet goals is the overzealous amounts of planning done. Sometimes too much planning can dampen the enthusiasm that stated the goal in the first place. When everything seems to point towards the impossibility of achieving the goal, a common responding feeling is discouragement. It is very important to stay strong in the face of adversity, as this will help sustain the individual and keep the feeling of discouragement at bay. When there are no clear deadlines set, there is no urgency to get things done. This causes the process towards reaching the goal to become longer, which in turn will affect the morale of those involved. Keeping every timeline encourages all participants to be focused and effective. Having the support of people to lean on is sometimes an important element that should not be overlooked. This important factor is what helps keep the dream of the goal alive when all else points to the opposite. Lack of commitment also causes people to fall off the goal wagon. When there is lack of commitment, there is also the presence of a whole lot of excuses. Some people take more time and effort coming up with excuses instead of putting the same effort into attaining the goal. Wrapping up. It's plainly a fact, when individuals have goals to guide them, they're happier and accomplish more than they would without having them. It's a brain thing. Accomplishing a goal you've set brings forth dopamine, a neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of pleasure. In return, dopamine activates neural circuitry that makes you eager to follow up on new challenges. Not all who wander are lost, they say, but for the great majority of us, having a guideline for the future is a central element to well-being and success, however we decide to define it. This means setting goals for ourselves and finding ways to think big.